Hey, how's it going, everybody? First off, welcome back. I know it's been a while. Just I hope you guys had a great spring break. Hope you guys managed to stay safe. Hope you were able to spend some good time with the family. Before we get back into this, I want to go over a few things. First off, I know this whole next month and a half we have left is going to be weird, different for all of us, myself included. So we're going to be doing a lot of kind of trial and error here. So if I try something that doesn't work, let me know. That way I can fix it, try it again, not try it again, what have you. Before we get started with the new stuff, I want to go over a few things, a couple reminders. First thing, if you haven't finished the e-learning assignments from that first week of e-learning, March 16th through the 20th, those e-learning assignments are actually due this Wednesday, April 8th at midnight, I believe. So if you haven't gotten those done, let me know. You still have a few days, so finish those with the next day or two. Next thing, going forward, at least for this week, and probably in the next for the rest of the time we have left, I'm gonna try out this Zoom thing. I set up times on Mondays and Thursdays at 10, where we'll have an online video conference lesson, whatever you want to call it. It's up to you whether you want to get on that time. If you do, fantastic. I'd love to see you. If you don't want to, or if you can't, because some other thing going on, that's fine. I will be recording these, kind of like I'm doing here, and I will upload those to Canvas in the e-learning modules, so that way, if you couldn't get on, you will still have access to everything we've talked about. So this will be Mondays and Wednesdays at 10, and then on Tuesdays, I will have a meeting time set up around 11. If you need help with the stuff from the previous day, questions, clarifications, what have you, that would be a great time to get on and you can ask me those directly. Again, not required. If you have no questions, then you don't have to get on unless you just want to get on and say hi for a minute. Otherwise, it is completely optional. I'm not making you guys do this. It's up to you. So those is what's going to happen going forward. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, message me on Canvas, what have you, and I will see what I can do to answer those. Okay, so let's go and get started with this. Our next thing we're going to be doing is Southern Africa. So by the time this is all over, there's a couple things you should be able to do. First thing is tell me what countries are located in West Africa. So what are they? Where are they? Kind of like we've done before in the past. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a map quiz like we have done, but I will let you guys know as always way ahead of time if I plan on doing that. Second thing, we're going to look at how landforms and physical features have impacted the people who live in Southern Africa. We're going to look at what people do for a living. How do they make money? What do they do in their free time? That kind of thing. And then the last thing we're going to be looking at is the different animals, wildlife, and climates that you will find in Southern Africa. Okay, so first thing we are going to look at is the modern countries in this region. Now, I have, I think, 8 or 9 up here. Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Madagascar. Now, the 4 that are highlighted, bolded, what have you, this one, that one, and that one, those are all landlocked, meaning if you look, they do not have any access to coastal areas. Like they are completely landlocked. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have access to a coast or a port from some other country nearby, but they do not have any direct access to the coastline. Something that is, I haven't really emphasized before, but I thought at this point it was worth mentioning. So those 4, the ones that are bolded and have the asterisk next to them, those countries are landlocked. Um, there we go. So, physical geography. Southern Africa, like the other ones we've talked about, is very has a lot of variety as far as what can happen. What can happen in what they have going on. Now, that being said, there are two things that we are going to be looking at in particular, plateaus and escarpments. Now, the picture on the right here is what a plateau would look like from below. If you notice, it's kind of a relatively flat, and then all of a sudden it just has a giant embankment on it. That height and how it looks flat on the top is what we would call a plateau. Now, I've mentioned those before, but never really made a point of it. But this one is something new, the escarpment. If you look here, how it's flat and then all of a sudden it just drops. That drop off is what is called an escarpment. Now, you can find plateaus and escarpments scattered across Southern Africa. Like, it's one of the more common physical features you'll come across if you visit this areas. Okay, climates. Now, like the other regions we've looked at so far, there's a variety of climates in the region, but in general, there are two that I want you to focus on. The desert along the western coast, so Namibia, South Africa, and the Botswana a little bit. And then also this steppe, and they have it labeled as temperate here, but temperate and steppe are essentially the same thing. Those are the kind of grassland areas, relatively mild, can be a little hot, cold, kind of a variety. So those are two of the more common. The deserts, there are two, the Kalahari and the Namib Desert, that we are going to focus on in particular. But just notice that like there are others, like down here, the very southern part, there's a Mediterranean climate. You have a little bit of a tropical, subtropical climate up in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. But in general, the two big ones are the deserts and then that steppe temperate climate zone. Now, physical features, there are four that we are going to focus on in particular. The Orange River is the longest river in the region. It starts in Lesotho and runs west through towards the Atlantic Ocean. The Drakensberg Mountains, also known as the Dragon Mountains, are the more well-known mountain range in southern Africa. Now, the Cape of Good Hope is an interesting one that we're going to be looking at in a little bit more here in a minute. That is actually the southernmost point in Africa. Like, that is as far as you can go southwise in Africa if you were on land. And then over here we have the Kalahari Desert, which is located on the west coast of South Africa and Namibia. And then it can be some of the hottest and coldest temperatures on the world. In some times of the year, it can be as high as 110, 15 degrees Fahrenheit. And then in the winter there, it can drop to 10, 0 even. So it has a large variety as far as temperatures and that kind of thing. The Orange River, if you notice, it starts over here in Lesotho and then it kind of flows west to the Atlantic. It plays a huge role in the region in terms of agriculture, farming, city locations, and then tourism, what people do for a living. It starts in Lesotho, as I said, and it flows west towards the Atlantic Ocean. Now, I mentioned we were going to talk about the Cape of Good Hope. And we were also going to throw in this guy, Vasco da Gama. Now, as I said earlier, the Cape of Good Hope is the southernmost point of the African continent. To early Europeans, they were very interested in various spices and other trade goods that they could find in largely India, China, that part of Asia. Now, they could take the land route across the Middle East and go that way, but due to the Muslim empires that we talked about previously, those routes were kind of blocked. So they began looking for alternate ways to get to India and then onto China. They eventually decided that they could go all the way around Africa, around the southern part, and then back up into India. Doing that, they would come across the Cape of Good Hope, as it came to be known as. Now, Vasco da Gama is a Portuguese explorer who wasn't the first to discover or round the Cape of Good Hope. There were others before him, but he is one of the first who wrote about his travels. He kept a journal, diary, log, whatever you want to call it, describing what he saw in terms of plants, people, climates, all of it. It's one of the most well-read accounts of someone who actually managed to travel the Cape of Good Hope, and he kind of wrote his description of what he saw. So, an excerpt from one of his travels log says that the dogs resembled those of Portugal and bark like dogs. I mean, I didn't know dogs bark different, but to him that was worth noting. He describes the birds and other animals that you would see. And then he says the climate is healthy and temperate and produces good herbage. Essentially what he's saying is the climate's average, not too hot, too cold, it's in the middle, and it produces a variety of good plants that can be useful for a variety of things. He often compares everything he sees to Portugal because that's what he knows. And for the most part, the climates along the southern coast of Africa do resemble Portugal. So to him, the climates and stuff were very similar. Now he describes the people, and the typical European way of saying it, he describes them as backwards. That he feels they could learn a lot from him for Europeans. But his account, which he wrote in 1497, kind of describes what Europeans exploring the coastline of Africa noticed for the most part. So just want to give you guys an idea of what people were seeing, writing about when they first discovered these new places. Obviously, there were people before him, but he's one of the first Europeans we have written record of describing his interactions with the native peoples. Now, this one I think is very interesting, the wildlife. Now, Southern Africa is home to a huge variety of wildlife. A lot of it is unique to that region. This first one here, the aardvark, is native to Southern Africa, as are these meerkats here. They are unique to that region. The black mamba snake, and then these guys here, the dassies, they are supposedly the oldest relatives to elephants that we know of. I wouldn't believe it looking at it, but couple ones I looked at described them as being DNA-wise one of the closest relatives to elephants. Another one that I didn't put a picture of, but ostriches are actually unique and native to Southern Africa. So ostriches are actually native to this region. I did not know that before I began researching this, but I thought it was worth mentioning. And then the last thing we're going to be going over is the economic industries, what people do for money. Now, I have included for this map here, the key is telling you what all this stuff means. If you want to get a closer look at it, feel free to come back and take a look. But I'm going to focus on 4 things. The first one being the majority of their economic industry in this region comes from mining. Mining things such as gold, diamonds, uranium, other valuable natural minerals. The diamond and gold mining especially is a big business in this region. A lot of people you will find working in these mines collecting whatever mineral they're mining for. They also do a lot of agriculture related jobs, farming. As far as farming things to sell, exporting, they do a lot of coffee bean farming, and sugar farming. It's a very big cash crop there, meaning they grow it for the sole purpose of selling it for a profit. Now, they also do grow other things as far as like food. They grow corn is a big one, actually. They grow a lot of corn there for livestock, for people, kind of the way we do it here. They also do a lot of other animal-related jobs, such as dairy farmers, sheep farming for wool, and other animal-related things. And then in some parts of Southern Africa, there is a big business for tourism, for service jobs, tour guides, restaurant workers, hotel workers. And then in some places, there is a big government sector job. A lot of people work for the governments there. Um, a lot of these people work in areas where there's a high tourist intake per year. They do a lot of tour guides, restaurant workers, that kind of thing. So, like I said, if you want to take a closer look at this map here just to have a better idea, feel free. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the 4 things up here are the ones I really wanted to highlight. And then the last thing is what you were doing for the assignment for this week. It'll be on Canvas for the Monday, April 6th module. It's going to be on there as a quiz. You don't have to treat it like one. It's not a quiz in the sense we typically think of. If you took any notes, use those. If you look back over this PowerPoint, listen to this recording again, and then go from there. Now, as always, it's due, as always going forward, any assignments we have for Monday will be due at 8 a.m. the following Thursday, submitted on Canvas. Okay, so this one, it'll open as soon as this ends, and then it'll be up. It'll be due 8 a.m. on Thursday, submitted on Canvas as always. And lastly, if you need help, shoot me an email, message me on Canvas. I'm here. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm also going to set up that 11 o'clock Zoom meeting on Tuesday. So again, if you don't have any questions, you don't have to get on Tuesday. If you just want to get on and say hi and then go, that's fine. If you need help, that's a great time to ask for it. And if it's not 11 on Tuesday and you have a question, shoot me an email. You guys know I'm more than willing to see what I can do to help. So last thing is, if you want to look into more some of this, these are some of the sources I use for it. There's nothing you need to do with this. It's just for your information if you want it. So as always, if you need anything, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you either Tuesday at 11 or Thursday at 10. I'll see you guys soon.